लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सिन्दूरारुणविग्रहां त्रिनयनां माणिक्यमौलिस्फुरत्तारानायकशेखरां स्मितमुखीमापीनवक्षोरुहां पाणिभ्यां मलिपूर्णरत्नचषकं रक्तोत्पलं बिभ्रतीं सौम्यां रत्नघटस्थरक्तचरणां ध्यायेत् परामम्बिकाम्। ॐ ध्यायेन्नित्यं महेशं रजतगिरिनिभं चारुचन्द्रावतंसं रत्नाकल्पोज्ज्वलाङ्गं परशुमृगवराभीतिहस्तं प्रसन्नं पद्मासीनं समन्तात् स्तुतममरगणैः व्याघ्रकृतिं वसानम् विश्वाद्यं विश्वबीजं निखिलभयहरं पञ्चवक्त्रं त्रिनेत्रम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्।
धृतराष्ट्र उवाच धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुयुत्सवः मामकाः पाण्डवाश्चैव किं कुर्वत संजय। श्री भगवान उवाच क्लैब्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्तोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप। अर्जुन उवाच मदनुग्रहाय परमं गुह्यमध्यात्मसंज्ञितं यत्त्वयोक्तं वचस्तेन मोहोऽयं विगतो मम। मन्यसे यदि तच्छक्यं मया द्रष्टुमिति प्रभो योगेश्वर ततो मे त्वं दर्शयात्मानमव्ययम्। श्री भगवान उवाच न तु मां शक्यसे द्रष्टुम् अनेनैव स्वचक्षुषा दिव्यं ददामि ते चक्षुः पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम्। संजय उवाच एवमुक्त्वा ततो राजन् महायोगेश्वरो हरिः दर्शयामास पार्थाय परमं रूपमैश्वरम्। दिवि सूर्यसहस्रस्य भवेद्युगपदुत्थिता यदि भासदृशी सा स्यात् भासस्तस्य महात्मनः। ततः स विस्मयाविष्टो हृष्टरोमा धनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिरसा देवं कृताञ्जलिर्भाषत। अर्जुन उवाच त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम् त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे। अनादिमध्यान्तमनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तम् द्यावा पृथिव्योरिदमन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपमुग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन्
Very good. Namaste, everyone. So today we are reading Mark has moved.
We did first verse of chapter 16 last time.
Correct. Thank you as a reminder. Shodasho Adhyaya. Daiva Asuri Sampat. So Daiva Asura Sampat. Vibhaga Vayu. Vibhaga. Right. Division of attribute, divine and divine. So first one, Bhagavan said, Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayah Tapa Arjavam. So anything not clear in these? Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damaha Yajnah Swadhyayah Tapa Arjavam. This morning already many of you joined for Yajurupa Karma. So we were engaged in a kind of yajna, right? Also a swadhyaya. And it's also a tapa, right? Etc. So anything that is, any doubt on this? No? Okay. Let us proceed to verse 2.
Ahimsa satyam krodha krodha tyagah shantihi apaishunam daya bhuteshu aloluptam mardavam hrirachapalam.
Very nice. Very good, Archit. Nice. Sandhi Vichhed.
Thank you.
Appropriate. Correct. Ahimsa. This is, of course, non-violence. Ahimsa iti. Ahimsa, ahimsanam praninam pida varjanam. So, non-violence is non-injury to living beings. Satyam. These are, after all, the first two in the yama, right? Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. Truthfulness. Satyam. Truthfulness is served by giving expression to facts, avoiding falsehood and shock to the listener. Apriya Anruta Varjitam Yatha Bhutartha Vachanam. This is very fantastic. This is actually in accord with that other verse we know. Satyam Bruyat, Priyam Bruyat, Na Bruyat, Satyam Apriyam. Priyam cha Nanrutam Bruyat, Yeshaha Dharmaha Sanatana. What does that verse mean? Satyam Bruyat, speak the truth. Priyam Bruyat, speak that which is pleasing. Na Bruyat, Satyam Apriyam, don't speak the truth that is unpleasant. Priyam cha Nanrutam Bruyat, don't also speak that which is pleasant but untrue. Yeshaha Dharmaha Sanatana. So that is exactly what is being said here, because it says Apriya Anruta varjitam, that which is devoid of unpleasant but also falsity. That truth, that is truthfulness is served by giving expression to facts, avoiding falsehood and shock to the listener. Then akrodha paraihi akrishtasya abhihatasya va praptasya krodasya upasamanam. Freedom from wrath denotes suppression of anger when abused or hit by others. Tyagah sannyasah purvam danasya uktatvat. Renunciation is meant tyaga, not charity. This goes beyond dana. Shantihi antakarnasya upasamaha. Tranquility is inner peace. Apaisunam. Apisunuta. Absence of envy marks him who won't expose others' weaknesses to their adversaries. Pararandra prakatikaranam paisunam. Tad abhavaha apaisunam. Parasmai pararandra prakatikaranam. Others' weaknesses. Daya kripa bhuteshu dukkhiteshu. Gentleness, kindness is pity towards the suffering. Aloluktvam indriyanam vishaya sannidhau avikriya. Uncovetousness consists in freedom from agitation of the senses when exposed to their objects. Mardavam mriduta akrauryam. Gentleness points to softness, absence of anger. Actually, krauryam is cruelty, absence of cruelty is what I would say. Hrihi lajja, modesty is a sense of shame. Achapalam, asati prayojane vakpani padadinam avyapara itrutvam. Dignity is the absence of vain activity of tongue, hand, feet, etc. Achapalam. Moreover, so any questions on 2?
So basically looks like it's summarizing the Yoga Sutras.
Some part of it, yeah, and then various qualities. Definitely difficult to embody all these qualities, but desirable.
Right. So all these are the one that creates turbulence in the mind, right?
Right.
Trying to avoid, moderating, maintaining the tranquility.
Right. Correct. So these are the divine attributes, right? He's going to say these are the divine attributes. Daivi. So, shall we move to number 3? There are no questions, we can move to number 3. Because you have questions, we can come back also. No? So 3.
Teja Kshama Dhruti Shaucham Adroho Nati Manita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata.
Tejaha iti. Tejas is splendor. Kshama, patience. Tejaha pragalbhyam na tvagata diktihi. It is executive ability. Pragal, not of the skin, not the luster of the skin. Tejaha. Kshama. Akrishtasya taditasya va antarvikriya anutpattihi. Utpannayam vikriyayam upashamanam akrodha ichi avochama. Patience is absence of mind's agitation when abused or beaten. The quelling of such agitation when roused is freedom from anger, as noted above. 16.2. So it has already been said in the previous verse, akrodha. Now, there is one point to be noted here very carefully, which is if it is said here that freedom from wrath means suppression of anger when abused or hit by others, and then again here it says patience is absence of mind's agitation when abused or beaten. Does this mean that one should keep quiet when one is abused or beaten, or then is that not a daivi? Should we then, I mean, this then says domestic violence is okay, right? Because the wife should just shut up and, or even if the man is beaten by his wife, he should just shut up and be soft and quiet. That is the daivi, that's a divine attribute, right? What do you say? Mahesh was nodding his head. Okay.
No.
Good. Okay, so then what is the resolution?
Resolution is reacting, but because that is agitating, right? That is so to go to the root of the problem and try to solve.
Yeah, that's right. So this is not a recommendation to be passive and be beaten. And actually, it's very often misinterpreted as that, right? There are a lot of social problems in India, many social problems. And a lot of them have been justified mistakenly on the basis of misinterpretation of scripture. It's very sad. But if you look at all the great leaders of India, like Swami Vivekananda or others, they were also social leaders. They never advocated repressive practices, regressive practices, because they really understand the import of the scriptures. So any kind of violence in the so this is the thing, right? The first one is ahimsa. So this works well if a daivi sampat person meets a daivi sampat person. You may think this works well, right? One practices ahimsa, the other one does not get angry when they are beaten. Well, there's no beating, there's no need to get angry, right? But the peculiar thing is that two things we forget. The first thing is nobody is of the daivi sampat always. This is a fact. The asuri sampat resides in all human beings. It has equal sway in many human beings. Daivi sampat is only acquired by hard practice, by much effort. It is not natural to the human state. That's why we are stuck between the 7 worlds above and the 7 worlds below. Most people will not admit that they have the capacity to be a Hitler or a Stalin. I will tell you, I have the capacity to be a Hitler or a Stalin. I know it. I know it. And that's why I am speaking and not other people. The first thing is you must acknowledge the tremendous power of evil within you. Only then you can begin to know what is possible. If you draw a nice heavy drapes over all your internal tendencies, then it's nice to look pious and put Tripundra and sit and claim to be pious. Then you will deny your own negative tendencies and those of others also. And when we see them, we'll just become very judgmental about it. This is not true. All human beings, without exception, have to deal with the demonic attributes. Okay? As I said, why we look up to the great gurus is because they conquered them. Right? Through hard effort. Right? Okay, daily practice, right? So the first thing is to recognize the capacity for evil within one of the most extreme nature. Okay, it is entirely possible, right? But if one does not allow if one starts to build habits in the mind that don't allow that to develop, and one works steadily at drawing the mind towards the good things, then they become less and less frequent, right? They become a distant memory, or they become something that is not revived, right? In the seed bed, right? Otherwise, you cannot understand extreme evil, right? So this is an important point. As much as many people focus on the Daivi Sampat, which is correct, you must. Don't ignore the Asri Sampat and don't think it is foreign to you. That's a big mistake, right? Okay. So there are many social ills. You may be at the receiving end of violence also, right? And you have to know how to exercise the appropriate reaction to it. Okay. Passive acceptance is not recommended, right? On the other hand, if the mind gets very angry and agitated, then actually it cannot strategize a good response, right? So even if you are a self-defense expert, let us say you're going to even react physically, right? Okay. In all the martial arts, like especially karate, etc., they teach first thing is mental equilibrium. The great martial arts exponents never get angry. They have the capacity to even kill another person, but they will never get angry. That's the mark of the highest black belts and things like that, right? They know exactly what they're doing. And it's because of the lack of anger that they can be so effective in their response. You know, frequently you will see in all these even popular movies, the other guy gets angry and comes and rushes, they just turns and throws him over, uses his own force against him, right? And that's because they have not got angry. Right? So you must resist. You must never, because it also has to be understood with an important, see, all these qualities have to be integrated. Arjavam, uprightness, was given in the first verse. Okay. Uprightness means not tolerating injustice. Whether you are doing it, krita, karita, done by somebody else, anumodita, or quietly approved, you are liable to all those consequences, right? So tomorrow, if somebody assaults you, even within your home, right? The point is, do not get angry, but put in place those mechanisms and procedures that it should not recur, right? Violence is unacceptable at any level, right? So one should not engage in it, definitely, right? So if one finds that you are sitting in a situation which is extremely provocative, right? What must one do? You have to analyze. What is making this situation so provocative? Should I take the help of a professional, right? Do I need anger management training? Maybe, right? There are many therapeutic modalities. See, one sad thing in particularly in traditional societies, especially and true of India also, is we do not want to acknowledge mental illness. There is a great stigma about mental illness. Okay. The other day I was telling my daughter, what Yoga Sutra teaches us is that everybody is mentally ill. What does it mean otherwise? Klishta, klishta. If you're not seeing the self everywhere, you're mentally ill because your thinking is tainted. Now there are 3 levels of mental illness. The Uttama type, It's very mild. There are kleshas, but these people are functional in the world. They are kind, they are sattvic people, but they have the filter of the gunas. This can be addressed by swadhyay, by yoga practice, prayer, ritual, all the recommended methods, correct? Okay. Second level is madhyama. There is a kind of mental illness where people are not able to be very functional in the world. They don't classify as sort of normal. Okay. All right. And such people need interventions. They need therapeutic help. In the old days in India, there was a Swamiji or a Guruji or a Kula Purohit, somebody associated with the family, an objective third party who had the family's greatest interest in their mind. Okay. And the family would regularly go to that person. Every family member would go and confess what was their problem and ask for help. Right. Now, this is a very special sthan for this Guru or Swamiji because they have to be impartial and give the right advice, which is for the betterment of everybody, not taking sides, what is best for that family, for that group. Very difficult job. And it's also a position of great power. So some people have abused it and misused it also, right? Now, when the breakdown of the traditional structure happened of having a Guru, having a Swamiji, having a Purohit, then we came into a more modern society, right? In how many families is there such a person? Do you know? Is there someone your family can? No one, nobody, none of you, right? Then what are you going to do? There's no help. So in the modern society, that place is taken by a therapist or counselor. There's nothing wrong with it because man has to reach out to get help in some way. Right? Now, just like there are gurus and swamis of different qualities and different levels, there are different levels of therapists, right? Some are brilliant, some are not that good. Okay. But if you don't take help, now our Indian society is caught in a very peculiar pincer-like dilemma problem. Let go of the old, haven't taken hold of the new. Isn't this true? There is no one in the traditional system to go and ask, and there is no acceptance that there is any problem worth discussing in the modern context. So then all the families are suffering because of mental illnesses within the family. It's a fact. Scratch a family and there is, I tell you that. Okay. No acceptance. It cannot be accepted, right? So this creates problem, right? Because it can result in violence within the family, all kinds of violence. You can have physical violence, you can have mental, you can have sexual abuse in the family. It happens more than we think or we care to admit, right? Emotional violence, abuse. These things have consequences on people, right? So when it says here, akrodaha, you see, the very sattvic person who is mentally more or less healthy, but needs only the Yoga Sutra help for cleansing the taints, that person can manage on their own, say by yoga, with a guru, some practice, ritual practice, yoga, japa, etc., etc. But if one is in the madhyama category, then you need more than that. Such a person may need actual counseling for that specific problem, for that specific issue, say anger management, whatever it is, right? Then there is an adhama category, whether you like it or not. Some of those things cannot be cured by even talk therapy. First, that mind has to be stabilized by medication. You know, many people don't want to accept this, right? Undoubtedly, medication is not the first thing. In this current society, it is overprescribed. So too much. It is being used without any long-term curative program. But it can be a modality that is important in certain cases. Because if there is neither the self-will to cure oneself, nor is there interaction with the particular therapist is not working, some cases that may be needed. right? So we must balance this notion of akrodha with the arjavam. Right? So these are legitimate, nice ways of curing both oneself, right? Because ultimately, where does everybody want to get? Everybody wants to get to that position where he can say, my overall life is stable, I have good, healthy relationships with everybody. I'm now proceeding for the ultimate purpose of life, right? Correct? But if the other relationships are not stable, if at work and home and family there is not a stability, then is it easy to attain? It is difficult, actually. When you go into sadhana, those things will still bother the mind, correct? Actually, but peculiarly, we often turn to sadhana and the spiritual path because of those things. Many times, right? It happens. That's not wrong. That's a good direction. But then one has to find the right teacher to solve those also, right? Ultimately, when the person becomes spiritually unfolded like a flower, right? All aspects must thrive, right? Happy family life, everything should improve, right? In time. So this is the idea. So when we read these things, please keep in mind that this has to be, we have to have a crystal clear 2020 vision that there are a lot of social problems in Indian society. All societies, I'm saying Indian because we are from Indian society. All societies have problems, but this is particularly peculiar situation that with the confluence of mental illness and this kind of philosophical, religious, cultural thinking can sometimes make it worse. Okay. We have to be very careful about that. Okay, how to be crystal clear that social things, problems should be removed. Individual must improve, right? Individual improves, family must improve, work situation must, everything must improve, right? And sometimes when we see a kind of injustice, what this is saying is take a wise approach. Don't get angry. Find the reason. Fix the problem, right? With whatever it takes, using the resources available, modern and traditional, right? This is the, in my opinion. So akrodha is not meant to, in both those is not to mean if you're beaten, just keep quiet. That's not the idea. Okay. Long story short. Okay. Then achapalam. Now number tejaha. We did this. Tejaha, kshama, dhritihi, vigor, shaucham, cleanliness, adrohaha, benevolence, na atimanita, non-haughtiness, bhavanti sampadam. Oh, sorry, did you read this already? You have not read this?
Yeah, I just read third one.
You read that, yes, yes. Daivim abhijatasya bharata. They come from the divine attributes. Tejaha, right. So already this said, this is not splendor of the skin, but it is a executive ability. Patience is absence of mind's agitation. Yeah, that was where the digression happened. Kshama, when abused or beaten. So, you see, in this context of, I also wanted to say something about kshama. Kshama actually can also be interpreted as forgiveness. Yes or no? In a more, now you see, when we talk about forgiveness, many times this thing is misunderstood. So what does it mean to forgive somebody? Let us say somebody has done something very bad to you. Correct? I mean, that's when you have to forgive, right? Huh? Yes or no? So what does forgiveness mean? First thing is, forgiveness does not mean that you condone or accept the wrongdoing. Forgiveness does not mean condoning the wrongdoing, right? Sri Krishna, as God, divine, interacted with the Kauravas, right? Kauravas did many bad things to his close friends, the Pandavas, yes or no? Right? Bhagavan forgives everybody, right? But he did not condone the wrongdoing. There's a difference, right? Wrong is wrong. That will always be wrong. Okay? Even if you forgive, it does not mean that makes the wrong a right. Right? This Lord himself has shown. Second aspect of forgiveness. Very commonly you hear forgive and forget. This is actually a very unwise tactic. Okay? You see, a wrongdoer does wrong because there is something in the swabhav. Okay? Now, how is the swabhav? How will the swabhav change? Swabhav is composition of the gunas, right? So, when there is rajas and tamas as predominant, wrongdoing happens, correct or no? Okay, how will the balance of the gunas change? Through self-effort. Yes or no? Only if you cultivate sattva and then you overcome tamas with rajas and rajas with sattva will the balance change. How does a person become a good person? Right? You hold on to the little bit of sattva and cultivate it more and more, right? Okay. If the wrongdoer who has done wrong to you has shown no signs of this, you think their balance is going to change automatically? It's not. The wrongdoer will commit the same mistake again, and you will be a fool to have forgotten. So it is wrong to say forgive. You should not forget the potential of the wrongdoer to repeat the mistake. Okay? I'm giving you very wise, practical advice. Don't be a fool. Okay, wrongdoing is wrongdoing. Forgiveness does not mean condoning it. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting the propensity of the wrongdoer to do wrong. Again, and 3, you must never put yourself in a situation where the wrongdoer can harm you. Then you are an idiot. That means you have not learned. Do you understand this? This is practical advice. This is what Sri Krishna advised to Arjuna. Yes? Did he say, go and believe everything Duryodhana did and said? Otherwise, they would have got burnt in the house of lac. Yes or no? If they had trusted everything that Duryodhana said, the Pandavas would have been finished off in the first or second chapter of the Mahabharata. Yes or no? This is exactly what Bhagavan Sri Krishna's advice is. And this was before Kali Yuga started. Right? The quality of the actors in Mahabharata is much worse than the quality of the actors in Ramayana. Because one was in Treta Yuga, the second one was in Dwapara Yuga. Now we are in Kali Yuga. So you can extrapolate, right? So this you must remember. People don't understand this. Don't have some ridiculous rosy notion of anything, okay? Use your wisdom and think. So now what does forgiveness mean then? Okay. You see, the God or self is in everybody. There is no doubt about this. Okay. But it manifests in different ways. And you must be wise to know in which way it manifests itself. That is what forgiveness means. You see, same God, same self is in everybody. Same self was in Ravana too. Same self is in Duryodhana too. Right? There is no doubt about this. But it manifests in different ways because the balance of the gunas is different. Same self is in Hitler too. Same self is in Stalin too. But they have cultivated the rajas and tamas to the exclusion and removing sattva out of them. Right? So with that kind of a person, you cannot expect miraculous transformation in one life. You see, in the Ramayanam, at the time of death, Ravana sees the Lord, right? And besides, Ravana was a Shiva Bhakta. He was a wholly different order of evil. Okay. It was a kind of definitely evil, but still a Lord worshipping evil, right? And at the time of his demise, he saw the Lord. He acknowledged, oh Lord, you have come to take my life. This is a different, you will not see this kind of evil easily today. Okay. Next in Dwapara Yuga, you have the Kauravas. Did they lose well? No. There was no remorse at the time of passing. Huh? Different order of evil. Then you look at the ones now in Kali Yuga. Can you expect better than that? Cannot. That's an upper bound. You cannot expect better than that. Okay. So this you must understand. The two are not contrary. And that is where the Sankhya theory, the Guna theory, helps you understand how the same self, which is beyond the Gunas, appears in different forms with different proportion of Gunas, and how to deal with it skillfully. This is what the Rishis figured out. Right? So a person who is got to be successful in Kali Yuga using the teachings cannot be a fool. Okay. Such a person is very shrewd. Sri Krishna was very shrewd in the Mahabharata. He was not a fool. In fact, Yudhishthira, so many times he took the other approach. Yudhishthira's approach was always loving, always kind, always trusting, right? If the Pandavas had followed Yudhishthira, would they have won the war? No. Most definitely not. But whom did they follow? Huh?
Sri Krishna.
Yes. There are many parts in the Mahabharata which are very difficult to understand. You may think almost God is advocating cheating. God is advocating some slightly devious practice. A practice that is not exactly, it's in the gray area. Yes or no? Yes or no? It's a fact. The death of Ashwatthama is misannounced, right? Ashwatthama hato gajaha. He says gajaha very softly, right? Knowing then that Dronacharya will be mentally disturbed and will drop his arms. Is this correct? By the strict rule, no, it's not. But is Bhagavan Sri Krishna dealing with people to whom that dharma should be accorded? No. He knows he is dealing with crooks. Right? Huh? So, to really understand the Mahabharata, which is a tremendous work of great wisdom, you have to do the sadhana. You have to do the tapasya and get this wisdom. Jnana Vijnanam. Not just Jnanam and sit in Himalayas and say whatever. Vijnanam. It has to come out. Right? Then you have to conquer your enemies. Just like Hemachuda did in the Tripura Rahasya. Right? You cannot just be a goody two shoes and walking around and get hoodwinked and swindled by everybody. This is no Jnanam. Your Jnanam must translate into the real world also as a force which is successful within its sphere, right? And heals many injustices within that sphere that is within your influence. This is the message of the Gita. This is the message of the Mahabharata. Right? So all these good attributes are there. They are important. They must be cultivated. But one should know whom and where to exhibit them. Right? Now let us read the other one. Now Atha idanim asuri sampat uchyate. Because we should also know what are the demonic attributes. So let us read 4.
दम्भो दर्पोऽभिमानश्च क्रोधः पारुष्यमेव च अज्ञानं चाभिजातस्य पार्थ सम्पदमासुरीम्.
Dambhaha, hypocrisy. Darpaha, arrogance. Atimanaha, excessive vanity. Krodhaha, anger. Parushyam, harshness. Eva, ajnanam, ignorance. Cha abhijatasya, are his who has inherited demonic attributes. Sampadam asuri. Actually, there are many people in my extended family who exhibit all these qualities, and I don't very much like them. My new family, I find I like, are the ones who exhibit the divine qualities. This also you must become aware of. Just because you are born with somebody or in a family doesn't mean that they are going to exhibit divine qualities. Okay? Whenever you see, naturally, as you start practicing more sadhana, you start doing swadhyay, you will find yourself attracted naturally to the divine qualities, and you will find a revulsion from these qualities. Okay, this is natural. Don't be afraid about it. You're on the right track. Okay. And dambha, hypocrisy, darpaha, arrogance, atimanaha, excessive vanity, krodhaha, parushyam, ignorance, ajnanam. Yes, these are very easy to recognize. Okay. Anayoho sampadoho karya uchyate. The effects of these two types of attributes are pointed out. Now, number 5.
दैवी सम्पद्विमोक्षाय निबन्धाया सुरीमता मा शुचः सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातोऽसि पाण्डव.
Right. So, in fact, Mahabharata gives exactly, this is what Mahabharata is about. What is Mahabharata about? In Mahabharata, the cousins, same extended family, right? Pandavas and Kauravas are same extended family, yes or no? Related by blood, yes or no? Kins, kinship, kinsman. What it is saying is that dharma and daivi sampat is more important than kinship. You may be born in the same family. Your brother or sister may have more demoniac attributes than you. Okay? As you purify yourself, you will naturally recognize this. Huh? That's why it says Bandhava Shiva Bhaktasya. I have people in my extended family, aunts and uncles, who don't even believe in the existence of God. And they keep asking me, what is this? I'm telling you. What can you do with people like this? Born in a Brahmin family. Huh? They want to know, is there a God? I'm on the point, I am suffering very much from illness. Sometimes I think there is a God. What can I say? Right? This is Asuri Sampat. Right? So, the divine attributes conduce to liberation, the demonic attributes to bondage. You must recognize this, because if we have the silly attachment that just because the blood relation, born in the same womb, this is the most important thing, then you will not be able to take Sri Krishna's advice and do what Arjuna had to do, which is he had to fight his own family, his own preceptors. Why? Because they were on the side of adharma. They were not recognizing the greater dharma. They were recognizing a lower dharma. What was the lower dharma? Bhishma, Drona, all their things were, oh, he gave us some money, he gave us some food, I ate his salt, so therefore Karna says, I will fight on his side. Yes or no? Some kind of lame excuse. And you're ready to fight against God on the other side. This is the idiot. Okay, so you must examine what is the logic and what dharma you're using in your own activities, right? And when you realize that the dharma you are following, that you are called to, that you deeply know in your heart is correct, is opposed to kinship, you should not be afraid to stand by the dharma and forget the kinship. This is important. That is exactly what the Mahabharata teaches. Dharma is more important. Being on the side of the divine is more important than saying, oh, I'm born in this family, I can't help it. I see this a lot in my own family. They cannot recognize their own brothers and sisters, the evil in them, because you have not cleansed the evil in yourself. How can you recognize it in somebody else unless you clean your mind, right? It's only when you've conquered the gunas and see them within yourself, then you can see how it is operating in the other person, right? And then you will know how to adjust your life, how closely to move with those people. Some people, everybody has a right to exist. You don't have to go and hug them. Yes or no? Right? Everybody has a right to exist. You can keep a safe distance from those kinds of people. This is very important, right? Your goal is to make sure that these divine attributes are being cultivated. Daivi, why? Because it conduces to liberation. After all, were you born in this life to hug and hold your kin, or were you born for some higher purpose? What is the purpose of your life? At the time of departure, are your kin going to come and hold you? Nobody is going to hold you. You're going to take that final path on your own. You know, this is a fact. There will always be a last time you will say bye-bye to your kin. That's it. So you must have a clear picture. Is my life about constantly clinging to my kin, or is it about something greater? Right? What is the purpose of my life? Why was I born? Once you know that from the great advice of the gurus, that you were born so that you may be liberated, then you realize Daivi Sampad Vimokshaya Nibandhaya Asuri Mata. The demonic attributes contribute to bondage. Ma Shuchaha Sampadam. Grieve not, O Pandava prince. Sampadam Daivi Abhijato Osi Pandava. You have inherited divine attributes. So Bhagavan reassures. You see, anybody who reads the Bhagavad Gita, see, people here are not asking me, is there a God? Right? To the person who asks me that, I cannot say with conviction this verse. Ma Shuchaha Sampadam Daivi. I can't say this. I cannot reassure them. Don't grieve. Because you are a stupid to ask this question, is there a God? This is people born in my own family. Aunts asking this question. Does it make any sense? Full grown adult, maybe 20, 30 years older than me, has seen a lot of life. And you ask, is there a God? And you're born in Brahmin family, so-called. Right? This makes no sense. Okay? If you have not figured it out by then, nobody can help you. Right? First of all, you got the great divine gift of birth, human birth. Right? Jantunam Narajanma Durlabho Mataha, our Guru has said. And on top of that, a Brahmin birth. Right? And then after that, if you ask, is there a God? Well, I think it's a bit late. Maybe you should reconsider. You know. So, however, because, see, look at how Arjuna is interacted with Sri Krishna. He has this just before when Shalabh read the verses, you know, he says, you have removed my ignorance, right? Right in the first verse. So when a person approaches with that kind of humility, openness of mind, transparency, true humility, willingness to, then Bhagavan immediately reassures. Don't worry. Every day when you say Kayena Vacha, every day you open your mouth in prayer, every time your mind goes to the Lord is there to forgive us, right? His grace, compassion is infinite, provided you don't doubt him. If you doubt him, then you're an idiot. That's the only thing one can say, quite bluntly. You know? In the 18th chapter, we will read that Bhagavan explicitly says, don't read this Gita to people who don't believe in me, who cavil at my arguments, right? Don't do that, because it will not have the right effect, correct? So, on the other hand, the one such as Arjuna who listens to him, he has inherited divine attributes. Now, noting that on hearing this, Arjuna must be wondering whether his attributes are divine or demoniac. The Lord remarks, don't grieve, you have inherited divine attributes. Good fortune is in store for you, O Pandava. This is always the nature of the Lord, benevolent, forgiving, and always reassuring and enlivening our divine attributes. And now, next one. 6, please.
द्वौ भूत सर्गौ लोके अस्मिन् दैव आसुर एव च दैवो विवत्स रसः प्रोक्त आसुरं पार्थ मे शृणु.
Very nice. Dvau bhuta sargau loke. In this world, 2 types, 2 orders of being have been created. Daiva and Asura. Daivo vistarashaha. The divine has been set forth in detail. Now listen, Arjuna, to the Asuram, to the statement of the demoniac. Okay. So, fairly straightforward. Next one. Number 7.
प्रवृत्ति च निवृत्ति च जनान विदुरासुराः न शौचौ नापि चाचारो न सत्यम तेषु विद्यते.
Right. Pravritti and nivritti. This is very important. Pravrittim cha pravartanam. Yasmin purushartha sadhane kartavye pravrittihi tam nivritti cha etad viparitam. Yasmat anartha hetoho nivartitavyam sa nivrittihi tam cha. Pravritti, it says, Purushartha sadhane kartavye. That is an effort, an action to reach the means of Purushartha. This is one interpretation. This is the Bhagavan's commentary interpretation. So, Purushartha is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Right? So, recognizing that effort towards those is called pravritti. And in this interpretation, nivritti is the opposite, meaning turning away from the means to these values. Right? So he says, na viduhu, they don't know this. Who? The asuras, the demoniac folk. Na shaucham, they don't know cleanliness. Na pi acharam, right? The right way of living. Na satyam, or truth. In them, these are not found. Okay? So, in Vishnu Sahasranamam, achara paramo prabho dharma, dharmasya prabhurachyuta, right? Acharam is highly valued. The Lord of that acharam is dharma, and the Lord of the dharma is Achyuta, the Lord himself. So, this conduct, which is hard undoubtedly to practice, is found. You know, just today we performed the Upakarma, which is a kind of acharam. It is an acharam, right? Sadachar. So, you know, we were reflecting who all in the family does these things, right? Correct? It's important. That is what Bhagavan is saying here. Now, this pravritti nivritti can be interpreted in another way, which is a slightly different interpretation. One can interpret pravritti as going in line with the gunas, and nivritti as actually moving in a direction away from the gunas also. This is a different interpretation. And so anyway, the distinction between the two is not known to the demoniac, right? The interpretation that Bhagavan has given is more useful from the practical day-to-day living viewpoint, because Bhagavan points out this point of the achara, right? Na shaucham napi cha acharu, right? The correct way of living, right? You yourselves have seen, I have noticed, some of you have been starting to do the Sandhya Vandanam, right? First, you did not know anything about Sandhya Vandanam, many of you. Then you started doing, then you realized at that point, many did not even know what Achamanam is, right? Now you see Achamanam comes so often in every achar, right? How central it is to the life of a Hindu, right? A ritual purification at every point. So as you cultivate achar, it grows and it transforms one's life and it makes one filled with better thoughts. It creates the Daivi Sampat, right? Definitely Mahesh can share with you that when you sit and do it, we spent about 4 hours this morning, I think. It is transformative. Your day will feel much better, right? And it's an annual thing. So it's only once a year. So you will feel spiritually rejuvenated and the divine attributes are cultivated, right? That is what Bhagavan is saying. That acharam, another verse I was telling you, Charanam, even this morning, Charanam Pavitram Vitatam Puranam. This is a verse about character, right? How cultivation of character is so important, right? It's not easy. I'm not trying to say that it is easy to cultivate acharam or character. It requires discipline. It is hard. In our modern world, it is even harder. Contemporary life, it is very hard. But those efforts definitely help. There's no doubt about that, right? So with that, actually, the next verse I think is interesting because it speaks to the practical. So let us just finish with 8.
असत्यमप्रतिष्ठन्ते जगदाहुरनीश्वरम् अपरस्परसम्भूतं किमन्यत् कामहैतुकम्.
Yes. Asatyam apratishtham te jagat ahuhu anishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kama haitukam. They declare that this world is untrue. It is ungrounded. It is not sitting on, based on anything, godless, and is born of mutual union. It is nothing but lust born, meaning it is no purpose other than to satisfy lust and desire, right? And just the example I gave you of my own extended family, somebody coming and asking me, is there God? What is this thing? You really think there's a God? You know, this is what else can you infer from this? You see, a person who cannot affirm that yes, there is a Lord, does not display the divine attributes. Therefore, they only display the demonic attributes, right? It can be very hurtful to a person if your family member, if your child, your parent, or your uncle, or your aunt, or your cousin says this. It's not easy, but you have to be honest to recognize what the Lord has said. The Lord has said that if this is the situation, this is a demonic attribute, right? One must have crystal clarity, right? If one does not do that, then you are just clinging to some attachment of the mind and you're not able to have crystal clarity. Undoubtedly, it is not easy, but one has to be strong on the path. Right? So therefore, this is a very clear litmus test for you. You remember litmus test in chemistry, you put it, it will say acid or base, right? This is what it is, right? In today's world, it has become very fashionable to be an atheist, to be an agnostic, to be a rationalist, to be a scientist, which is actually wrong. It's actually, to call oneself a scientist in that sense is actually a disgrace to science itself. But anyway, okay, because there is no contradiction between science and the existence of the Lord. They are completely compatible. So, but this is unfortunately the case in today's world. So one has to be very clear. What are the Daivi Sampat? What are the Asuri Sampat? And how they can occur in anybody. They can dominate in anybody. So, main thing is here that there is a truth, there is a Satyam, right? There is a Dharma, there is a Sanatana Dharma, eternal Dharma, there is a Pratishtham, there is an Adharam, and there is a Lord. This is the divine attribute. To affirm those and to have no doubt in that point. Right? Anyway, any questions? We have come to 517, we have verse 8, it's 637. Any questions? And then we will wrap up.
Yeah, I have one, it's more of an observation.
Sure.
I mean, because the way these things have been grouped together is also evident, because if in some day things are just harder, you behave with all these demonic qualities, and one thing happens, it is most often accompanied by the others also.
Sure.
Other Asuri things.
You're right.
The same thing happens on the other side also.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. So, the main thing is we try not to feel a kind of a guilt or shame about, but just immediately reset the mind towards the divine quality, right? All that we can do is this instant, we can turn the mind to the divine. Every instant you turn the mind to the divine, over the day, you have increased the fraction, right? Then over the week, over the month, and slowly, the other qualities by nature will get diminished, right? But you're right in observing that they don't go away right away. Absolutely correct, right? That's correct. But every time we have a choice to cultivate more of the divine, we can. Right? And in a way, what you said also gives us a less judgmental and more forgiving sense, which is what I said. The self is there in everybody, even in the ones, who are behaving with demonic attributes. The self is there in them too, right? The Lord is there in them too. It's only that they are not using the God-given intelligence to acknowledge it. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Shalabh. It was interesting. A good observation.
Sometimes these demonic qualities comes from people we may not be able to avoid, Professor, in our daily life.
Yes.
And even though we start the day with a good mood or with good meditation, they may
yes,
ruin or...
You're very right. And then it becomes a daily challenge, depending on how much interaction you have. It becomes a strong external sadhana, how to keep the divine attribute. Right. But the more and more we cultivate it somehow, you see, Devi, the goddess, she also gives us a kavacham, an armor. Slowly, again, it builds an armor too. This also I found. You will start feeling a protection from these things as time goes on. Mostly, if they, they will see you and start running away from you. This guy is very boring. He always has, vibhuti and whatnot. He's always doing puja. Who wants to talk to him? Very good. Thank you. It becomes self-selective. Okay. All right. Very good. Delightful discussion. Have a good evening. Today's Shravan Chaturdashi, tomorrow Shravan Purnima. So we will be doing the Gayatri Japam in the morning. Very delightful time. This is most important, and very good time for meditation. Very good time for sadhana, commencing a new practice, reviving, taking your vows, vrat again, to do something through the year on a daily basis. So please enjoy it. Benefit.
Is that the morning you're talking about or the evening?
Morning.
Okay.
Gayatri Japam will be, I think tomorrow we will do the same thing. We will start with Sandhya Vandanam at 6:30 and move right into Gayatri Japam.
6:30 Central Time.
Yes. And it's up to you. You can, depending if you are not wanting to do the formal Sandhya, etc., you can do Japam also, by yourself, or join the group and do Japam. All are admissible. One can even come as observer and enjoy. Whatever way you want to participate. Right? Overall, it will be very uplifting. Okay? Namaskar, everyone. I will say the Shanti Mantram. Om Tacham Yora Vrinimahe Gratum Yajnaya Gratum Yajnapadaye Daivihi Swastirastunah Swastirmanushebhyah Urdhvam Jigatu Bheshajam Shanno Astu Dvipadehe Sham Chatushpade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, uncle. Good to see you. Namaste, everyone.